Welcome, everybody. Started with our meeting here, and I just want to affirm the reasons that we're gathering every week. We gather because we wish to grow in our belief, building up our knowledge and our understanding, and learning to walk in his ways. We seek to remember that we are the redeemed, that we're chosen and we're saved, and that salvation came at a great price. The world is under judgment and will soon be destroyed, but not us, not his. We have joined the covenant people of Yahweh, which is Israel, and are participants in their covenants and their promises. And our responsibility in this covenant is to believe Yahweh and Yahushua, because in Hebrews we're taught that without belief it's impossible to please him. For he who comes to Elohim has to believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of those who earnestly seek him. Belief requires obedience. And these are the promises that we've joined, the covenant promises to Israel, that we would have eternal life through resurrection, that we would be called to the promised land where we will have our mansions, that we have a sovereign, Mashiach, who is a benevolent ruler, who is also our Savior, and our Kohen HaKadosh, which is our high priest. And in this new relationship that we will experience and through resurrection, we will have a renewed relationship with him where we will truly be his people and he will be our Elohim, and together we will be acting in right covenant, right relationship. According to Paul's word in Corinthians, 1 Corinthians 8:1, if anyone believes Elohim, this one is known by him. All right, so join in prayer that Yahushua taught us. We say it together. Ready? Yahuwah, Father in heaven, sanctified in Kodesh be your name. May your kingdom come and will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us today our daily bread. Forgive us our wrongs as we forgive those who have wronged us. And do not lead us into trials or temptations, but deliver us from wickedness and evil. For yours is the kingdom, the power, and the good of God. Amen. Is that reading too fast for me? Is that reading too fast for you?
I thought I was reading fastest.
Before we start reading, at what we were having the conversation, Shiloh Paul addresses this whole subject in Philippians 3, verse 8. What is more, I even count all to be loss because of the excellence of the knowledge of Mashiach, Yahushua, Adonai, for whom I have suffered the loss of all, and count them as refuse in order to gain Mashiach, and to be found in him, not having my own righteousness, which is of the law, but that which is through belief in Mashiach, the righteousness which is from Elohim on basis of belief, to know him and the power of his resurrection, and the fellowship of his sufferings, being conformed to his death, if somehow I might attain the resurrection out from the dead. Not that I've already received or already been perfected, but I press on to lay hold of that which Mashiach Yahushua has also laid hold of me. Brothers, I do not count myself to have laid hold of it yet, but only this, forgetting what is behind and reaching out for what lies ahead. I press on toward the goal of the prize of the high calling of Elohim and Mashiach Yahushua. So it says that it's not about knowledge. It's not about what knowledge we have. It's good to have knowledge, but that is not our goal. Our goal is continually pressing on to him, in him, with relationship to him, to know him and the power of his resurrection. That is the goal, not how much knowledge we accumulate, but to know him intimately and personally. So I just felt like I needed to bring that up again.
Which, and if it don't mind, I'll just add to that. I think, as scriptures teach, that also leads us. We'll never be justified, as he said early on. My righteousness does not come from law. My righteousness comes from belief in Hamashiach. But not to be confused, because the two are intertwined, not necessarily just the law, but to believe in Hamashiach and to press on to Hamashiach, pressing into him and to press into relationship with him involves behavior that is obedient by nature. And because you can't. Yeah.
Well, John 14:21.
Mhm.
He who possesses my commands and guards them, it is he who loves me.
Yeah.
And he who loves me shall be loved by my Father, and I shall love him and manifest myself to him.
So it's all so closely intertwined. So, I know that teaching in the churches that the law has passed, but that's just not true. What the differentiation is that the law is not ever going to be our righteousness. Belief is our righteousness, but the law is part of what defines the behavior that Yahuwah expects of us, which means that Yahushua or Hamashiach expects of us. This is how we act when we are truly His. When you believe in somebody, you will emulate them. When you love them, and you will
be
emulate their
imitators
behavior,
of
not
Elohim.
because you're being made to, like most under the law were being made to. I mean, that's the whip. That's the thing that, but you do it when you're really pressing into him just because that's what you want to do. You want to be like your Hamashiach. So,
Well, he also said the law was made for the transgressors.
yeah.
The laws were made for the transgressors, which actually in Adam, all were transgressors. But when you think about a son and a father in your case, or a daughter and a father, just the ones that are really close, the the children will do about anything the father says. Just because they love them, they'll be quick to obey because they just want to please their father. And Yahushua was the most pleasing of all. Yahuwah said, I'm pleased. I'm well pleased with him, but he did everything the Father asked of him. He said everything the Father wanted him to say. He did everything the Father wanted him to do, and he was well pleasing. Um, so a child that is the parent looking upon the child, the parent's going to still love a disobedient one, but the relationship won't be anything alike for the one that loves his father. Like you show honor and you love your father. And I say he does. I can see it. But those that are rebellious, it's like, well, the father still loves them, like the prodigal son account, the parable that you
Well, and I
said.
would just, because you mentioned the Testament of Levi, the witness of Levi, and I'm getting ready. This is one of the next books I'm headed back into. I want to read all the 12
It's
patriarchs
wonderful.
again. But when I read them the first time, I was so shocked because as we read scripture and we're getting ready to start getting into them in Genesis, as we read scripture, your understanding of them would be that they're not the best of children. Why in the world would they have become our patriarchs that we reverence so much? When we watch their behavior, we see what Reuben does, we see what Judah does, we see what all the brothers, Shimei, all of what they do. But when you read their witness, their testament, what they became as they matured, you realize that they grew into that. They grew into that relationship that we're talking about. They grew out of needing the law and all into this just nature
Cleaving
that
to him.
wanted to
Cleave
to the
to
Father.
him. Yeah.
And it is so clear that every single one of the patriarchs, by the time they were done, fully understood the value of that right relationship with the Father.
Yeah. In fact, a lot of what's in Genesis just really highlights an act of disobedience so that we can see the penalty. What happened with that act of disobedience, with that act of immorality, and see the consequences that follow.
To hear them in those
That was a
testaments
grieving.
describe what those cost them and the heartache and the hardship that
The regret, the remorse.
Yes, that all of those accounts that they don't tell us about in Genesis and their impact upon each of those brothers, Reuben, Judah, Yehuda,
Shimon.
Levi,
Yeah.
Shimei, Shimeon. Yep.
Yeah, they regret that the accounts that are highlighted in Genesis
Oh yeah, Shimon
are,
talking about his hate for Joseph and what that cost him or what that caused him to do.
and he hated that he hated him.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was okay. All right,
Okay.
we're off on the trails, but I know we.
I don't think it's a drill. I think it's part and parcel with
Yeah, yeah. But
we're
we had a
intended.
whole discussion before the meeting started here that kind of led us in this direction. Joe, do you want to Genesis 25?
Yeah, I can.
Genesis 25 and 26, and then Proverbs 22.
Okay. And Abraham took another wife whose name was Keturah, and she bore him Zimran, and Yoshan, and Medan, and Midian, and Ishbak, and Shua. And Yokshan brought forth Sheba and Dedan, and the sons of Dedan were Asherim, and the Shuim, and Luamim. And the sons of Midian were Ephah, and Epher, and Hanok, and Abida, and Eldah. All these were the children of Keturah. Now Abraham gave all that he had to Yitzchak, but to the sons of the concubines whom Abraham had, Abraham gave gifts while he was still living, and sent them away with his son Yitzchak eastward to the land of the east. And these were all the years of Abraham's life which he lived, 175 years. And Abraham breathed his last, and died in a good old age, aged and satisfied, and was gathered to his people. And his sons, Yitzchak and Ishmael, buried him in the cave of Machpelah, which is before Mamre, in the field of Ephron, son of Shur the Hittite, the field which Abraham purchased from the sons of Heth, where Abraham was buried with Sarah his wife. And it came to be after the death of Abraham that Elohim brought his son Yitzchak, and Yitzchak dwelt at Beer Lahai-roi. And this is the genealogy of Ishmael, Abraham's son, whom Hagar the Mitzrayite, Sarah's female servant, bore to Abraham. And these were the names of the sons of Ishmael, by their names according to their generations. The firstborn of Ishmael, Nebaioth, then Kedar, and Adabel, and Mipsam, and Misha, and Duma, and Massa, Hadad, and Tema, Yetur, Naphish, and Kedemah. These are the sons of Ishmael, and these were their names by their towns and their settlements, 12 chiefs according to their tribes. And these are the years of the life of Ishmael, 137 years, and he breathed his last and died, and was gathered to his people. And they dwelt from Havilah as far as Shur, which is east of Mitzrayim, as you go toward Ashur. He settled before all his brothers. And this is the genealogy of Yitzchak, Abraham's son. Abraham brought forth Yitzchak, and Yitzchak was 40 years old when he took Rivkah his wife, the daughter of Bethuel the Aramean of Paddan Aram, the sister of Laban the Aramean. And Yitzchak prayed to Yahushua for his wife because she was barren, and Yahweh answered his prayer, and Rivkah his wife conceived. And within her the child struggled together, and she said, "If all is right, why am I this way?" So she went to ask Yahweh, and Yahweh said to her, "Two nations are in your womb, and two peoples shall be separated from your body, and one people shall be stronger than the other, and the elder serve the younger." And when the days were filled with her to give birth, and when the days were filled for her to give birth, and see, twins were in her womb. And the first came out reddish all over, like a hairy garment, so they called his name Esau. And afterward his brother came out with his hand holding on to Esau's heel, so his name was called Jehoshaphat. And Yitzchak was 60 years old when she bore them. And the boys grew up, and Esau became a man knowing how to hunt, a man of the field, while Jehoshaphat was a complete man, dwelling in tents. And Yitzchak loved Esau because he ate of his wild game, but Rivkah loved Jehoshaphat. Jehoshaphat cooked his stew, and Esau came in from the field, and he was weary. Esau said to Jehoshaphat, "Please feed me with that same red stew, for I am weary." That is why his name is called Edom. But Jehoshaphat said, "Sell me your birthright today." And Esau said, "Look, I am going to die, so why should I have my birthright?" Then Jehoshaphat said, "Swear to me today." And he swore to him and sold his birthright to Jehoshaphat. Jacob then gave Esau bread and stew of lentils, and he ate and drank and rose up and left. Thus Esau despised his birthright.
Esau did not have wisdom because he didn't value his birthright.
Yeah, you're good at defining it. Won't you go ahead and define for us all despised, what that means?
Despised has the idea of, it could mean,
Doesn't have to mean
yeah,
hate,
it doesn't have to mean hate. It could just mean you esteem it lightly. You don't value it.
undervalue it,
Undervalue.
which is what he did exactly. When you read Jubilees and towards the end, that's he acknowledges it to Yitzchak, and I failed to value my birthright.
I just noticed this. I think, I don't know if it was for the first time, but it just stood out to me today, was that the patriarchs are fathers of the faith. It's always said Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Abraham's wife had a hard time conceiving, and Yahweh gave her a child.
Of promise.
Yeah. Say that again.
Of promise.
Yeah.
This is
Well, my point was barrenness versus fruitfulness. So Abraham, okay, let me rethink. Okay. So Sarah had trouble conceiving, couldn't conceive, her womb was dead, never conceived. And then Yahweh blessed her womb and she conceived Isaac. It says in Hebrews, she received strength to conceive seed. And then Rebecca couldn't conceive. She and Isaac were married 20 years and she wasn't conceiving. And then Isaac says Isaac prayed, and his wife conceived. And then just look ahead at Yitzhak's son, Jacob, Yaakov. He's going to have both Leah and Rachel, and Rachel couldn't conceive. And then Yahweh showed her favor and opened her womb. So I just thought, I've known for a long time that it is his will for women to have children. It is, if you are not barren, if you're barren, if you can't have a child, it is not his will that you're that way. And I just love it that these couples prayed and Yahweh blessed them with a child. And if they'd been patient, Sarah wouldn't have had to do what she did. But but I just love it that it says in Deuteronomy that part of the blessing of Abraham is fruitfulness and that you will have children. And so that just stands out to me.
going to already finish up your brother, Jubilees. And one of the things that stood out to me was that in the days of the Egyptian, what do you call it? Well, when they were in Egypt.
Bondage, iron
Yeah.
furnace,
A king from the land of Canaan, if I get this right, the king from the land of Canaan had come down and was doing battles with after Joseph, after the death of the pharaohs that were friendly to Joseph and Israel. A king was coming down from the land of Canaan and was attacking Egypt, and the Israelites left to go help fight against that king of Canaan. So the Israelites went up into their land for a season, and then they came back to Egypt, and a few of them stayed there. Did you know this? Do you remember this in Jubilees?
No, I don't remember.
This is so they went up to help Egypt do battle against the kings of Canaan, and then most of them came back, but not all of them. And if I'm not sure that Jubilees tells us entirely, but when you look at the father of Moshe, he was one of them that stayed up there. So
Aram.
Aram. Now I don't know if it would be the father-in-law of Moshe, because
Amram.
Yeah, that's who
Amram.
stayed. Yeah.
Amram is the father of Moshe.
But then also now in Jubilees, it also says that Amram taught Moshe to read and write. So I'm not quite 100% sure how all of this really fits. But, I have often wondered, how is it that when Moshe went up into, where'd he go? Midian, right? I just read here, this is when
I
Abraham,
do remember that now. Yeah.
Abraham took another wife whose name was Keturah, and she bore him Zimran, Jokshan, Mishan, and Midian. So when by the 400 years later, when Moshe goes to this land, which is up and around, what was that mount? It was Mount where the burning bush. That's
Sinai.
Mount Sinai, and her father weren't they the of Midian? Wasn't her father-in-law of Midian, like a prince of
A
Midian?
priest. I thought he was even a priest of Midian.
So
Maybe a prince or priest.
of the anyway, I just
One before thing before we
of
get
course it does occur to me that it would be just another son of Abraham. I'm realizing even in this moment that maybe that wasn't what I was thinking of. So anyway, no.
so it said in chapter 25, now Abraham gave
Where?
all 5 I'm 25 5.
Five.
Now Abraham gave all that he had to Yitzhak. So it tells us back in the previous chapter 24 that we read last week. And Yahweh has baraked my master exceedingly. That's Abraham. The servant's talking about his master Abraham. And he's become great. And he has given him flocks and herds and silver and gold, male and female servants, and camels and donkeys. And then just in the next chapter, it says, because Abraham obeyed my voice, guarded my charge, my commands, my laws, and my Torah. So obedience is linked to great abundance, prosperity. So for the believers that think no, being rich is bad, well, Abraham was very rich. He gave all that he had to his son Yitzhak, who was very rich. He made the Philistines jealous. He made the king of the Philistines jealous. That's the giants. And one of Abraham's main things that Yahweh said about him, because Abraham obeyed my voice.
Jacob was too.
Jacob was very rich, and Joseph then was exceedingly rich.
Yeah, actually, he was probably richer than all of them.
Yeah. So for anybody thinking that Christians are to be poor in lack and that somehow makes us more godly, more pious, not so.
Well, that would be going against the promises of the covenant. If you were to keep the covenant, then you are promised prosperity. You're promised all the blessings.
He just said, remember when you're rich, when you are wealthy, remember it's I who made you that way so that you can establish my covenant.
Anything else, Joe? Anything stand out to you in this?
Much. I guess I never really realized that Abraham had concubines and another wife, and he sent all these other sons away with gifts to lands east.
Yeah, many nations came from him.
Now I think they all strive with Israel, don't they?
I think pretty much. I don't know these sons, which would be. We know that. What's his name? The brother, the first.
Reuben,
No,
Esau.
Ishmael.
Ishmael. Thank you. We know he strives with Isaac, but I think it's likely that we have here this.
I did find it interesting that, yeah, they do, but his sons, Yitzhak and Ishmael, buried him in the cave.
Yeah.
So they were together at that time. So, I mean, they weren't enemies.
Right.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like it.
Just seems like their descendants became enemies. I don't really know of another word.
Just this is about what we were just talking about. So in the Testament of Levi, it said, please, master, tell me your name. So he's Levi, is talking to the messenger. He said, please, my master, tell me your name that I may call upon you in a day of tribulation. And he said, I am the messenger who intercedes for the nation of Israel. that they are not completely destroyed, for every evil spirit attacks him. I mean, anything that is associated with Israel, and now that we're the seed, we are part of Israel, every evil spirit is set on destruction, destroying them.
Yeah. So if we didn't have the protection of Yahweh, we'd be in trouble.
We were talking about something that before we talked about Ishmael and Isaac making. I was bringing it up because of that. So, no, it was just right before it. So it's okay.
All right, chapter 26.
And there was a scarcity of food in the land, besides the first scarcity of food, which was in the days of Abraham. Yitzhak went to Abimelech, sovereign of the Pelishtites, which are the Philistines, in Gerar. And Yahweh appeared to him and said, do not go down to Mitzrayim, Egypt. Live in the land where I command you. Sojourn in this land, and I shall be with you and barak you. I will bless you. For I give all these lands to you and your seed, and I shall establish the oath which I swore to Abraham your father. And I shall increase your seed like the stars of the Shamayim, and I shall give you all these lands to your seed. And in your seed, all the nations of the earth shall be blessed. Because Abraham obeyed my voice and guarded my charge, my commands, my laws, and my Torah. And Yitzhak dwelt in Gerar. And when the men of the place asked about his wife, he said, she is my sister, for she was afraid to say, she's my wife, lest the men of the place should kill me for Ribkah, because she's good looking. And it came to be when he had been there a long time that Abimelech, sovereign of the Pelishtites and the Philistines, looked through a window, and he watched and saw Yitzhak playing with Ribkah, his wife. So Abimelech called Yitzhak and said, see, truly she is your wife. How could you say she is my sister? And Yitzhak said to him, because I said, lest I die on account of her. And Abimelech said, what is this you've done to us? One of the people had almost lain with your wife, and you would have brought guilt on us. And Abimelech commanded all his people, saying, he who touches this man or his wife shall certainly be put to death. And Yitzhak sowed in the land, and sowed in that land, and reaped in the same year 100-fold. And Yahweh barak him, blessed him. And the man Yitzhak grew great and went forward until he became very great. And he came to have possessions of flocks and possessions of herds and a great body of servants. And the Pelishtites, the Philistines, envied him. And the Pelishtites, the Philistines, had stopped up all the wells which his father's servants had dug in the days of Abraham his father, and filled them with dirt. And Abimelech said to Yitzhak, go away from us, for you are much mightier than we. So Yitzhak went from there and pitched his tent in the Wadi Gerar, and dwelt there. And Yitzhak dug again the wells of water, which they had dug in the days of Abraham his father, for the Philistines had stopped them up after the death of Abraham. And he called them by the names which his father had called them. But when Yitzhak's servants dug in the wadi and found a well of running water there, the herdsmen of Gerar strove with Yitzhak's herdsmen, saying, the water is ours. And he called the name of the well Yitzhak, because they strove with him. And they dug another well, and they strove over that one too, and he called its name Sitnah. And he moved from there and dug another well, and they did not strive over it, and he called its name Rehoboth, and said, for now, Yahweh has made room for us, and we shall bear fruit in the land. And from there he went up to Beersheba, and Yahweh appeared to him at the same night and said, I am the Elohim of your father Abraham. Do not fear, for I am with you, and shall barak you, and increase your seed for my servant Abraham's sake. And he built an altar there, and called on the name of Yahweh, and pitched his tent there. And the servants of Yitzhak dug a well there. And Abimelech came to him from Gerar with Ahuzath, one of his friends, and Pichol, the commander of his army. And Yitzhak said to them, "Why have you come to me, seeing you've hated me and have sent me away from you?" But they said, "We have clearly seen that Yahweh is with you." And we said, "Please let there be an oath between us, between you and us. Let us make a covenant with you, that you do no evil to us, as we've not touched you, and as we have only done only good towards you, and have sent you away in shalom. You are now Baruch by Yahweh." And he made them a feast, and they ate and drank. And they rose early in the morning and swore an oath with one another. And Yitzhak let them go, and they departed from him in shalom. On that same day it came to be that the servants of Yitzhak came and informed him about the well with which they had dug, and he said to him, "We have found water." So he called it Sheba. Therefore the name of the city is Beersheba to this day. And when Esau was 40 years old, he took wives, Yehudath, the daughter of Beer Eri, the Hittite, and Basemath, the daughter of Elon, the Hittite. And they were a bitterness of spirit to Yitzhak and Rivkah.
Meaning they were a nuisance.
Worse than nuisance, they were a bitterness. I mean, that's gall. That's what's really interesting is my normal reaction would be when when the enemy kept filling up my wells. How many of us would take up arms and say, "Get away from my well, dig it out." Hey, you dig it out. But Isaac would just move. He didn't take up arms against him. He just dealt with it. And actually, there's probably something in him, an inner girding of him, that he knew he was blessed of Yahweh, and he didn't have to do that. I'm just surmising that. And he kept moving as they kept filling up the wells they dig, and Yitzhak would move, and then finally found water. And I just found it interesting that he was blessed. He was Barakah. Yahweh said, and here's water, and here's the blessing. And then the people that were filling up his wells came to him and said, "Hey, we see you're pretty great, and Elohim's with you. Let's make a covenant." So they actually promised to Yitzhak, and then his seed will leave you alone. So there was a big benefit to just moving along when your enemy is coming against you. I think that's where we inquire of Yahweh. What do we do here, Yahweh? Do we move on or do we fight?
Okay. Anything else we want to talk about here? Joe? Right? No.
Well, just one other thing. Did you have something, Joe? I'm so sorry. I butted in.
No.
Where there was a famine in the land, just like in the days of Abraham. And I think in that day, Abraham went to Egypt because
Abraham did.
Okay. So Yitzhak was told by Yahweh, "Don't go down there. Just stay where you are, and I'll bless you here." And we see how Yahweh blessed him because Yitzhak was obedient and stayed even though there was a drought. And he planted in a drought, and he was blessed 100-fold because of it. And it says, and after that, the man grew great and went forward until he became very great. One act of obedience or disobedience can separate us from great, great blessing. And it's best to learn that when you're young and not when you're old. You're young.
All right. And move on to Proverbs. Proverbs 22.
We'll be reading again this next month.
What now?
In March 22, we'll be reading 22 again.
Oh, okay. The name is preferable to great riches. Favor is better than silver and gold. The rich and the poor meet together. Yahuwah is the maker of them all. The clever one foresees evil and hides himself, but the simple go on and are punished. The reward of humility is the reverence of Yahuwah, riches and esteem and high. Thorns, snares are in the way of the perverse. He who guards his high keeps far away from them. Train up a child in the way he should go, and even when he is old, he turns not away from it. The rich rules over the poor, and the borrower is slave to the lender. He who sows unrighteousness reaps trouble, and the rod of his wrath perishes. He who has a good eye is Baruch, for he gives of his bread to the poor. Cast out the scoffer, and strife goes out, and contention and shame cease. He who loves cleanness of heart, whose speech is pleasant, a sovereign is his friend. The eyes of Yahuwah shall watch over knowledge, but he overthrows the words of the treacherous. The lazy one says, "There's a lion outside. I'm going to be killed in the streets." The mouth of a strange woman is a deep pit. The one denounced by Yahuwah falls in there. Folly is bound up in the heart of a child. The rod of discipline drives it far from him. One oppresses the poor to increase. Another gives to the rich only to come to poverty. Incline your ear and hear the words of the wise, and apply your heart to my knowledge, for they are pleasant if you guard them within you. Let all of them be ready on your lips, that you may trust, that your trust might be in Yahuwah I caused you to know today, even you. Have I not previously written to you of counsels and knowledge, to cause you to know the certainty of the words of truth, to return words of truth to those who sent to you? Do not rob the poor because he is poor, and oppress not the afflicted at the gate. For Yahuwah pleads their cause, and shall plunder those who plunder them. Make no friendship with one given to wrath, and do not go with a man of rage, lest you learn his ways and find yourself ensnared. Do not be one of those who shakes hands in a pledge, and one of those who are guarantors for debts. If you do not have the means to pay, why should he take away your bed from under you? Do not move the ancient boundary which your fathers have established. Do you see a man who is skilled in his work? He stands before sovereigns. He does not stand before obscure ones.
Blaze through that.
We did? Too fast?
A little fast.
Hmm?
A little fast.
Anybody?
No, there's a lot. I'm just trying to give Joe an opportunity.
Go ahead.
Well, the first one, just the very first verse, a name is preferable to great riches. And by that, I think one infers a good name. And you can't separate a man or woman's name from their word. Their name represents the word they give. Um, and then, the borrower is slave to the lender. There's so truth in there.
It's all very good. It's just rather straightforward.
Says, don't be one of those who shakes hands in a pledge, one of those who are guarantors of debts, for debts. Basically, I think that is co-signing for somebody else, being a guarantor for somebody because you don't know what they're going to do or not.
It's very similar to that.
And don't move ancient boundaries. One of the things I've seen in the scriptures that Yahuwah hates people that will try and take away land just by moving boundaries.
Stealing
It is,
land.
yeah, stealing land.
All right.
Can we pause?
Take a break.
I need to.
Okay.
I mean, I can either just go do it or
We'll go ahead and pause here.
we're camping there.
Do you want to read it then,
You
or
can read. It's wonderful.
have you tried the apple?
Yeah, you just gave me some very good.
I'm reading the apple, and I think it was just the honey that was giving it the bite.
Really?
Yeah.
I like it,
Well, we have at home too.
but I like peppermint tea. I like it all. Okay.
A song, a song of degrees. I lift up my eyes to the hills. Where does my help come from? My help comes from Yahweh, maker of the Shamaim and earth. He does not allow your foot to be moved. He who watches over you does not slumber. See, he who is guarding Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. Yahweh is your guard. Yahweh is your shade at your right hand. The sun does not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. Yahweh will guard you from all evil. He guards your being. Yahweh will guard your going out and your coming in now and forever.
Can I read it the way I read it?
Yeah.
For some reason, weeks and weeks ago, actually back in December, that's when I put it on there. I don't know, I was just overwhelmed and just needing help. I just needed help in general, and I landed on that one because I remembered something, where I look to the hills. I lift my eyes to the hills. For some reason, that phrase, I remember that from a long ago. And so I went there. And it's, so this is the way I read it to myself out loud. I lift up my eyes to the hills. Where does my help come from? This is a rhetorical question. My help comes from Yahweh, maker of the Shamayim and the earth. He does not allow my foot to be moved. He who watches over me does not slumber. See, he who is guarding Yisrael, includes me, neither slumbers nor sleeps. Yahweh, you are my guard. Yahweh, you are my shade at my right hand. The sun does not strike me by day, nor the moon by night. Yahweh, you guard me from all evil. Yahweh, you guard my soul, my being, my life. Yahweh, you guard my going out and my coming in now and forever. And if you look up that word from all evil, guarded from all evil, the word is Ra. This, the false god Ra also, but the evil is the Greek word in the new the Greek is poneris. But it anything you can think of that is not favorable is Ra. It's evil. It's poneris. And he'll guard us from all of them. I mean, every evil that can befall a person. If he is our refuge and our fortress and our what does it say in Psalm 91? My refuge, my fortress, my strong tower. And he'll guard us. We follow his ways and keep his ways and cleave to him. So I just love that. It's meant a lot to me. And I'm having to camp there. I have to keep I have to stay there just as that and keep it coming out my mouth. So sometimes he just does that. Certain passages, you just keep camping there until I feel like he's just directed you somewhere else.
Yeah, very good.
Read 123. You want to read it?
Yeah.
Okay. The Song of Degrees. Degrees. I shall lift up my eyes unto you who dwell in the Shamayim. See, as the eyes of servants are toward the hand of their masters, as the eyes of a female servant are toward the hand of their mistress, so are our eyes toward Yahweh our Elohim, until he shows favor to us. Show favor to us, O Yahweh, show favor to us, for we are exceedingly filled with mockery. Our being is exceedingly filled with the scoffing of those who are at ease. with the mockery of the proud. Oh, that's happening right now. Laughing at us.
Right now? Who's laughing at? 124, a song of degrees, Doeg. If it had not been Yahuwah who was on our side, let Israel now say, if it had not been Yahuwah who was on our side when men rose up against us, then they would have swallowed us alive in their burning rage against us. Then the waters would have overwhelmed us, the stream would have gone over our being, then the proud waters would have gone over our being. Baruch be Yahuwah, who did not give us as prey to their teeth. Our being has escaped like a bird from the snare of the trappers. The snare was broken, and we have escaped. Our help is in the name of Yahuwah, maker of the Shamayim and the earth. Going, Joe? Unless you had something.
Just yeah,
Okay.
three different psalms right in a row. And well, I guess the first 121 and then this one both talk about our help is in the one who's our help is in the maker of the Shamayim and the earth. It all throughout the Psalms and the scriptures, he enunciates through his people that pen his words that it's a big deal that he made the Shamayim and the earth the way he made the Shamayim and the earth. And it's been contested to where almost the entire population believes it is not the way the scriptures describe it, the Hebrew scriptures describe it. Just find that very interesting.
Song of degrees. Those who trust in Yahweh are like Mount Zion. It is not shaken, it remains forever. As the mountains surround Jerusalem, so Yahweh surrounds his people now and forever. For the scepter of wickedness shall not rest on the land allotted to the righteous, lest the righteous stretch forth their hands to unrighteousness. Do good, O Yahweh, to those who are good, and to those who are upright in their hearts. But those who turn aside to their crooked ways, Yahweh shall lead them away with the workers of wickedness. Peace be upon Israel.
Hmm. 128 through 130.
A song of degrees. Baruch are all those who revere Yahuwah, who walk in his ways. You shall eat the labor of your hands. Be Baruch, and let it be well with you. Let your wife be as a fruit-bearing vine within your house, your sons like olive plants all around your table. Look, so shall the man be Baruch who reveres Yahuwah. Yahuwah shall Baruch you out of Zion, and let you see the good of Jerusalem all the days of your life, and let your children's children, and let you see your children's children. So that means a long life. Being blessed includes living a long, strong life. Shalom be upon Yisrael.
129, a song of degrees. Often they have distressed me from my youth. Yet let Israel now say, often they have distressed me from my youth, but they have not overcome me. The plowers plowed on my back. They made their furrows long. Yahuwah is righteous. He has cut the cords of the wicked in two. Let all those who hate Zion be put to shame and turn back. Let them be as the grass on the housetops, which withers before it grows up. That shall not fill the reaper's hand, nor the sheaves the binder's bosom. Let those who pass by not say, the barakah of Yahuwah be upon you. We have baraked you in the name of Yahuwah. And those who pass by shall not say, the barakah of Yahuwah be upon you. We have baraked you in the name of Yahuwah.
"30. A song of degrees. Out of the depths I have cried to you, O Yahweh. O Yahweh, hear my voice. Let your ears be attentive to the voice of my prayers. O Yah, if you should watch wickedness, O Yahweh, who would stand? But with you there is forgiveness, that you might be revered. I look to Yahweh, my being has looked, and for his word I have waited. My being for Yahweh, more than those watching for morning, watching for morning. O Israel, wait for Yahweh, for with Yahweh there is kindness, and with him is much redemption. For he shall redeem Israel from all his wickednesses.
Very good. All right, well, do you want to take a break or do you want to keep moving into new writings where we are at John? And we'll be reading chapters 2 through 4. And we'll just keep moving, or do you want to take a break?
I guess I'm sorry.
And keep moving.
Just real clear. Hold on, 1:30. Was that 1:30 or 1:30?
1:30.
Okay, that for with Yahweh, there's much kindness in verse 7. Sasid.
See,
Pretty much anytime you see Hasid or kindness or mercy, not all of the mercies, but in the King James, mercy is interpreted both Rakam and Hasid, but they're two different. I mean, there's some similarities within them, but Hasid is certainly covenant loyalty, fidelity, faithfulness, and Rakam is that of the womb compassion.
would you read that little spot again, then that we read as kindnesses?
O Yisrael, wait for Yahuwah, for with Yahuwah there is Hasid, the fidelity, faithfulness, covenant loyalty, covenant love, loving kindnesses.
That is so much better than just kindness.
The verses that are really wonderful, they'll say that he has much Hasid and Rakam. There are verses that have both of them right there, and it's just like you can't get better than that. You can't get better. I mean, it doesn't seem like you should be able to get better with Hasid, but Rakam is that of the womb compassion. Okay, you say John 2.
Assuming this is the third day of the week.
Actually, I was wondering, I'd counted, and I'm thinking this is the third. So,
We have days up in chapter 2.
well, in chapter
Here I
1,
see on the next day.
on verse 29, on the next day, Yohanan. So the first day, Yohanan is speaking. Let's see, another king in verse 19. Now this was the witness of Yohanan when the Yehudim sent from Yerushalayim Kohanan. I think that might be the first day. Whatever first day they're referring to. And then on the next day, Yohanan saw Yahushua coming out. And then what was that?
So this was right after Johanna was
Actually, no, that's wrong.
clean.
That is wrong because as soon as Yahushua, so Yohanan immersed, baptized Yahushua. And then then Yahushua was led out into the desert for 40 days to be tempted. And then it was after that, he says he came out with the power and the spirit. And then then he had his first signs of his ministry, the healings and miracles of his ministry. So maybe that was the third day of the week, like you're saying.
All right. Well, good.
That me.
Mhm.
And on the third day, there was a wedding in Cana of Galilee, and the mother of Yahushua was there. And both Yahushua and his Talmidim were invited to the wedding. And when they were short of wine, the mother of Yahushua said to him, "They have no wine." Yahushua said to her, "Woman, what is that to me and to you? My hour has not come yet. My hour has not yet come." And his mother said to the servants, "Do whatever he says to you." And there were 6 stone water jugs standing there, and according to the mode of cleansing of the Yehudim, each holding 2 or 3 metretes. I think those were really big, like 50 gallons, 40 gallon. They were very big water jugs.
Hmm.
And Yahushua said to them, "Fill the water jugs with water." And they filled them up to the brim. And he said to them, "Now draw out the water, draw it out." And he said to them, "Now draw out and take it to the master of the feast." So they took it. But when the master of the feast had tasted the water that had become wine and did not know where it came from, though the servants who had drawn the water knew, the master of the feast called the bridegroom and said to him, "Every man at the beginning puts out the good wine, and when they have drunk, then that which is poorer. You have kept the good wine until now." This, the beginning of the signs Yahushua did in Cana of Galilee, and manifested his kabod, his esteem, his glory, and his Talmidim believed in him. After this, he went down to the Capernaum, Capharnaum. He and his mother and his brothers and his Talmidim, and they stayed there, and there they stayed not many days. And the Pisa of Yehudim was near, and Yahushua went up to Jerusalem.
That's Passover.
And he found in the Mikdash those selling oxen and sheep and doves and the money changers sitting. And having made a whip of cords, he drove them out of the Mikdash with the sheep and the oxen and poured out the money changers' coins and overturned the tables. And he said to those selling doves, "Take those away. Do not make the house of my father a house of merchandise." And his Talmidim remembered that it was written, the ardor, the zeal for your house has eaten me up." And the Yehudim answered and said to him, "What sign do you show to us, since you are doing these?" Yahushua answered and said to them, "Destroy this Mishkan, this temple, and in 3 days I shall raise it." And the Yehudim said to him, "It took 46 years to build this Mishkan, and you're going to raise it in 3 days?" But he spoke about the Mishkan of his body. So when he was raised from the dead, his Talmidim remembered that he had said this to them, and they believed the scripture and the word which Yahushua had said. And when he was in Jerusalem at the Passover, at Pesach, at the festival, many believed in his name when they saw the signs which he was doing. But Yahushua was not entrusting himself to them, because he knew all men, and he had no need that anyone should witness of man, for he knew what was in man. The disease became permanent and resided in with the law. The law had to go because the disease was permanent.
And there was a man of the Pharisees, Nachdimon was his name, a ruler of the Yehudim. This one came to Yahushua by night and said to him, "Rabbi, we know that you are a teacher come from Elohim, for no one is able to do these signs you do if Elohim is not with them." Yahushua answered and said to him, "Truly, truly I say to you, unless one is born from above, he is unable to see the reign of Elohim." Nachdimon said to him, "How is a man able to be born when he is old? Is he able to enter into his mother's womb a second time to be born and be born?" Yahushua answered, "Truly, truly I say to you, unless one is born of water and the Ruah, he is unable to enter the reign of Elohim. That which has been born of the flesh is flesh, and that which has been born of the Ruah is spirit. Do not marvel that I say to you, you have to be born from above. The Ruah breathes where it wants, and you hear the sound of it. The Ruah breathes where it wants, and you hear the sound of it, but do not know where it comes from and where it goes. So is everyone who has been born of the Ruah. Nakdiman answered and said to him, how is it possible for this to take place? Yahushua answered and said to him, Are you the teacher of Israel and do not know this? Truly, truly, I say to you, we speak what we know and witness what we have seen, and you do not receive our witness. If you do not believe when I spoke to you about earthly, how are you going to believe when I speak to you about the Shemayim? And no one has gone up into the Shemayim except he who came down from the Shemayim, the Ben of Adam. And as Moshe lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, even so the Ben of Adam has to be lifted up, so that whoever is believing in him should not perish but possess everlasting high. For Elohim so loved the world that he gave his only brought forth Ben, so that everyone who believes in him should not perish but possess everlasting high. For Elohim did not send his Ben into the world to judge the world, but that the world through him might be saved. He who believes in him is not judged, but he who does not believe is judged already, because he has not believed in the name of the only brought forth Ben of Elohim. And this is the judgment, that the light has come into the world, and men love the darkness rather than the light, for their works were wicked. For everyone who is practicing evil hates the light and does not come to the light, lest his work should be exposed. For the one doing the truth comes to the light, so that his works are clearly seen, that they have been wrought in Elohim. But the one doing the truth comes to the light, so that his works are clearly seen, that they have been wrought in Elohim. After this, Yahushua and his Talmidim came into the land of Yehuda, and he remained there with them, and was immersing. And Yohanan was also immersing in Ayin near Salem, because there was plenty of water there. And they were coming and were being immersed, for Yohanan had not yet been put into prison. Then a dispute arose between some of Yohanan's Talmidim and the Yehudim about cleansing. And they came to Yohanan and said to him, Rabbi, he who is with you beyond the Jordan, to whom you have witnessed, see, he is immersing, and all are coming to him. Yohanan answered and said, A man is able to receive naught unless it is given to him from the Shemayim. You yourselves are witnesses for me that I said, I am not Hamashiach, but I am sent ahead of him. He that has the bride is the bridegroom, but the friend of the bridegroom who stands and hears him rejoices greatly because of the voice of the bridegroom. So this joy of mine is complete. It is right for him to increase, but me to decrease. He who comes from above is over all. He who is from the earth is of the earth and speaks of the earth. He who comes from the Shemayim is over all. And what he has seen and heard, that he witnesses, and no one receives his witness. He who receives his witness has put a seal that Elohim is true. For he whom Elohim has sent speaks the words of Elohim. For Elohim goes not give the Ruah by measure.
Does.
I think that's supposed to be does. For Elohim does not give the Ruah by measure. The Father loves the Ben and has given all into his hand. He who believes in the Ben possesses everlasting high, but he who does not obey the Ben shall not see high, but the wrath of Elohim remains on him. Does yours say in 34 that Elohim does in yours?
It's a typo there.
Yeah.
I don't know where the verse is, but it talks about how it says that the word, the word, they're judged by the law. If they don't receive the Son, who's the pardoner, the one who can pardon us from breaking the law, is our Savior. But those that refuse to believe and cleave to the one, Yahushua, they're remaining in that lawlessness. They have no pardon for how they broke the law. But if they'll receive Yahushua as their Savior, then he's the one that pardoned them for the law breaking. So they're already judged guilty because of the law. And Yahushua is the only one that can pardon the lawbreaker. You just keep seeing that in different ways. It's just interesting.
What's next?
for
We're staying in John today.
And
according to you.
So when the add-on knew that the Pharisees had heard that Yahushua made and immersed more Talmidim than Yohanan, although Yahushua himself did not immerse but his Talmidim, he left Yahuwah or Yehuda and went away again to Galil, and he had to pass through Shumaron. So he came to the city of Shumaron called Shechem, near the piece of land Jehoshaphat gave to his son Joseph, and Jehoshaphat's fountain was there. So Yahushua, being wearied from the journey, was sitting there at the fountain. It was about the 6th hour. A woman of Shumaron came to draw water. Yahushua said to her, "Give me to drink. Give me to drink." For his Talmidim have gone off into the city to buy food. The woman of Shumaron therefore said to him, "How is it that you, being a Yahudi, ask a drink from me, a woman of Shumaron? For Yahudim do not associate with the Shumaronites." Yahushua answered and said to her, "If you knew the gift of Elohim, and who it is who says to you, 'Give me to drink,' you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water." The woman said to him, "Adonai, you have no vessel, and the well is deep. From where then do you have living water? Are you greater than our father Yehoshaphat, who gave us the well, and drank from it himself, and his sons, and his stock?" Yahushua answered and said to her, "Everyone drinking of this water shall thirst again, but whoever drinks of the water I give him shall certainly never thirst. And the water that I give him shall come in him a fountain of water springing up into everlasting high." The woman said to him, "Adonai, give me this water, so that I do not thirst, nor come here to draw." Yahushua said to her, "Go, call your husband and come here." The woman answered and said, "I have no husband." Yahushua said to her, "You have well said, I have no husband. For you've had 5 husbands, and the one whom you now have is not your husband. What you have said is true." The woman said to him, "Adonai, I see that you are a Nabi. Our fathers worshipped on this mountain, but you say that in Yerushalayim is the place where one needs to worship." Yahushua said to her, "Woman, believe me, the hour is coming when you shall neither on this mountain nor in Yerushalayim worship the Father. You worship what you do not know. We worship what we know, because the deliverance is of the Yehudim. The hour is coming, and now is when true worshippers shall worship the Father in spirit and truth. For the Father also seeks such to worship him. Elohim is Ruah, and those who worship him need to worship in spirit and truth." The woman said to him, "I know that Mashiach is coming, the one who is called Anointed. When that one comes, he shall announce to us all." Yahushua said to her, I who am speaking to you am he." And upon this his Talmidim came, and they were marveling that he was speaking with a woman. However, no one said, "What do you seek?" or why do you speak to her? Why do you speak with her? The woman then left her water jug, and then went away to the city, and said to the men, "Come, see a man who told me all that I have done. Is this not Hamashiach?" They went out of the city and were coming to him. But in the meantime his Talmidim were asking him, saying, "Rabbi, eat." And he said to them, "I have food to eat, of which you do not know." Then the Talmidim said to each other, "Did anyone bring him to eat?" Yahushua said to them, "My food is to do the desire of him who sent me, and to accomplish his work. Do you not say, 'There are still 4 months, and the harvest comes'? See, I say to you, lift up your eyes and see the fields, for they are white for harvest already. He who is reaping receives a reward, and gathers fruit for everlasting high, so that both he who is sowing and he who is reaping rejoice together. For in this the word is true: one sows and another reaps. I sent you to reap for that which you have not labored. Others have labored, and you have entered into their labors." And many of the Shumarites of the city believed in him because of the word of the woman who witnessed, "He told me all that I have done." Therefore, when the Shumarites came to him and they were asking him to stay with them. He stayed there 2 days, and many more believed because of his word. And they said to the woman, "We no longer believe because of what you said, for we ourselves have heard, and we know that this is truly Hamashiach, the Savior of the world." And after the 2 days, he left there and went to Galilee. For Yahushua himself witnessed that a Nabi is without appreciation in his own country. Therefore, when he came to Galilee, the Galileans received him, having seen all that he had done in Jerusalem at the festival. For they also went to the festival. Then Yahushua came again to Cana of Galilee, where he had made the water wine. And there was a certain nobleman whose son was sick at Capernaum. When he heard that Yahushua had come from Yehuda into Galilee, he went to him and was asking him to come down and heal his son, for he was about to die. Yahushua then said to him, "If you do not see signs and wonders, you do not believe at all." The nobleman said to him, "Adonai, come down before my child dies." Yahushua said to him, "Go, your son lives." And the man believed the word that Yahushua spoke to him and went. And while he was going down, his servants met him and reported, saying, "Your son lives." And then he asked from them the hour in which he became better. And they said to him, "Better at the seventh hour, the inflammation left him. Yesterday at the seventh hour, the inflammation left him." Then the father knew that it was at the same hour in which Yehuda said to him, "Your son lives." And he himself believed in all his household. Again, this is the second sign Yahushua did when he had come from Yehuda into Galilee.
I was pondering some things, Acts 15. It's where Peter had the vision. And let me find that in maybe 20, not 15. Where Peter had the vision. Oh, that's 10 before 10. Sorry. Okay. So Peter has the vision of the unclean animals on the sheet, saw it 3 times. And then after he spoke with, after Cornelius sent the message, after Cornelius had a vision from Yahweh and said, "Go send for Simon Peter." So he did. And then so Simon Peter comes, this is all in Acts 10. And so Cornelius was a righteous man, but he was not of Hebrew descent. He would have been considered a Gentile. Is that your understanding too? So Peter, when it's all kind of happening, he's realizing the sheet, the unclean animals on the sheet. And he says in verse 28, and Peter said to them, "You know that a Yehudi is not allowed to associate with or go to one of another race. But Elohim has shown me that I shall not call any man common or unclean." And I know that, and I've seen it where even the Syrophoenician woman understood she was considered a dog by Yehudim. The Samaritan woman, the Shomerin, the Samaritan woman, knew that she was considered subspecies by the Yehudim. And I just feel like there is a connection between those verses, that after Yahushua came, he was showing not just Peter, but he was saying, okay, you don't treat people like that anymore. The command to love. Yahushua said, "I give you a renewed command, love one another." Where prior to that, the Samaritans were dogs. Syrophoenician people were dogs. Everybody's a dog except for, born of Abraham. And they had to be, you know, the veil had to be removed, that Yahushua came for the world, not for merely the lost sheep of Israel. Um, but I just was thinking those people would have qualified as unclean. The Samaritan woman would have qualified as unclean. The Syrophoenician woman who had the demon possessed daughter would have been considered unclean, and they weren't. it was a miracle that he dealt with them and before his disciples took over to, well, I shouldn't say took over, but he actually, when he sent the disciples out, first the 12, then the 70, who were just healing people and delivering people, it didn't say they were only healing Yehudim. It might have been only Yehudim.
I think they were sent to the towns of Yehudim. Yehudim.
Yeah.
And
Right. They were sent there, but doesn't mean they didn't heal people that weren't. Because by the time Peter was there, it was just, or by the time they pour out of the Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit, all you had to do was be within his environment and you'd get healed. So yeah.
well, there's an awful lot, and it's kind of hard to really try to engage in these 3 chapters that we just read. There's so much information there but to go into them, you would have to really start talking about an awful lot that is just not gonna, we're just not gonna do in this environment. But there's just so much there. So the no comments to the no discussion is kind of, it's all big. They're all big chapters. It's full of meaningful information.
One just real quick on the woman at the well. He didn't have to tell her go sin no more. Some people he healed, he had to tell them don't go sin anymore unless something worse comes upon you. But he didn't need to tell her. I think just the meeting of him and the revelation she had that the Messiah valued her. She was the first evangelist. I've heard somebody say that she was the first evangelist because she went and told everybody in her community, and then they believed on him because of her. But he treated her well and didn't treat her like a dog, didn't treat her like a prostitute or a sinner, because most people, even today, somebody that's been married 4 or 5 times or been, just tossed around with different people, they wouldn't be looked upon very well by many Christians, many of us. And so he kind of straightens out our attitude when he didn't condemn her. He just said, no, you've been with 5 and the man you're with is not your husband. Something like that. But he treated her well and he gave her opportunity to go from there. Fresh start.
All right, well, that's it for our reading today. Unless got anything else to add? No? Harry? All right, well, go ahead and close up for the day and have our dinner. Yahuwah, may you barak and guard us. Yahuwah, may you make your face shine upon us and show us favor. Yahuwah, may you lift up your face upon us and grant us shalom. We thank you for your provision and the food we're about to eat and all the things you do and how you take care of us, Yahuwah. Amen. Okay.
Not that it would be for on recording, but